Crippled by its eternal enemy Israel, Hezbollah, an Iran-backed Shia militia and political force in Lebanon, designated a terrorist organisation by the West, is under extreme pressure.
Disarm Hezbollah.
Hezbollah must be disarmed.
Désarmement du Hezbollah.
With Iranian backing under strain, its leadership decimated and many of its strongholds reduced to rubble, the group is facing calls to lay down its arms. So are we about to see the end of Hezbollah as a fighting force? Or can they come back from the brink? What comes next for Hezbollah will send shockwaves through Lebanon and could reshape the balance of power across the Middle East.
Hezbollah, or Hezbollah, the Party of God, was, according to its leading members, founded in 1982, although it didn't exist as a coherent organization until about 1985, when it published this manifesto, an open letter to the downtrodden of Lebanon and the world. And in that manifesto, it does talk about fighting Israel until its final obliteration.
The group's persistent attacks on Israeli forces, who occupied southern Lebanon during the civil war, were a key factor in Israel's withdrawal in April 2000. But the violence didn't end. Clashes and cross-border fire between the two have persisted in the disputed areas ever since. Now also a political party, Hezbollah refused to disarm, keeping a strong military foothold in southern Lebanon.
Many of the militias that fought within that sectarian civil war, they disbanded, they were forced to disband. But Hezbollah positioned itself as a resistance movement, not a militia. And this is why it was able to keep its weapons and stay formed as a resistance to the Israeli occupation of the south of Lebanon. It has also taken advantage of a failing system within Lebanon. It has its own schools, it provides subsidized food to its supporters, it even has its own ambulance. Hezbollah has stepped in where the state has failed, and so because of this, it's understood to be very powerful and a state within the state of Lebanon.
The month-long war that erupted in July 2006 saw Israeli forces bogged down in fierce combat, repeatedly ambushed by Hezbollah's coordinated attacks.
The 2006 war was important because it gave Hezbollah a lot of confidence. They came away from that conflict believing that they had won, as did Israel. It really bolstered them as a guerrilla fighting force and as a resistance in their minds.
Hezbollah's fighters gained combat experience by aiding Bashar al-Assad in Syria. Backed by Iranian funding, training and weapons, the group's forces eventually surpassed the Lebanese army and became a key player in Iran's axis of resistance.
Hezbollah was really the jewel in the crown of the axis of resistance. It was the organization with the greatest depth, with the greatest history, with the greatest capability, and it had engaged in direct conflict with Israel a number of times, so it was the key component of the axis.
But in 2023, Hamas's bloody October 7th attack on Israel was about to change everything, forcing Hezbollah to make a crucial decision that would dramatically change the power balance across the Middle East. October 2023, and as Gaza reels under relentless bombardment, Hezbollah opens the second front against Israel. Israel returns fire. Lack of air defense puts Hezbollah at a major disadvantage. In a devastating blow, Israel kills 12 people by remotely detonating pager devices carried by Hezbollah members. But an even harsher setback was still to come.
Lebanon's Hezbollah group is now confirming that its leader Hassan Nasrallah has been killed.
He was killed when Israel struck Hezbollah's underground headquarters in the city late on Friday.
He was this almost mythical figure, and he was incredibly charismatic, he was a good speaker, he was a good tactician, and I think he understood the power of Israel, so he trod a fine line of keeping his supporter base happy, but also not provoking Israel too much. For many here in Lebanon, and not just the Shia community, Nasrallah was this kind of father figure, member of the family, a kind of uncle almost.
Strikes on Lebanon killed around 4,000 people, wounded 18,000, and displaced over 1 million, while Israel's losses remained relatively limited.
لا شك هناك بعض الفقدان القادة ولكن هناك أصبح ترميم على صعيد كل المواقع الجهادية أو العسكرية في المقاومة، إن كان على صعيد عسكري أو على صعيد أمني.
Hassan Nasrallah has been replaced by Naim Qassem, who is widely considered the Hezbollah number 2. He is 71 years old, he's a religious scholar, and he's one of the founding members of Hezbollah. He is thought of as being much more hardline.
The war dealt a serious blow to Hezbollah, and the November 2024 ceasefire effectively marked its defeat. Despite the agreement, Israeli forces continued strikes and refused to fully withdraw, citing security threats.
أنا أدعو الحكومة اللبنانية أن تعيد النظر بهذا القرار وأن تعبر عن موقفها.
With Hezbollah crippled and the full weight of US support behind it, Israel confronted Iran head-on in June 2025, signaling a dramatic escalation in the regional conflict. In response, once a formidable force, Hezbollah has neither fired upon Israel nor issued threats.
I think a lot of people feel that Iran asked Hezbollah to sit this one out because A, Hezbollah didn't have the capacity, and B, Iran didn't want its proxy in the region damaged any more than it already is.
But we shouldn't make a mistake of saying that Hezbollah is on the brink of collapse. I mean, after all, Hezbollah has around 80 to 100,000 people in their fighting force, and their most feared fighting force, the Radwan forces, are very much intact. Hezbollah is still a formidable fighting force on the tactical and operational level.
Hezbollah may still have the manpower, but can they rebuild into an effective fighting force? With the fall of Assad's regime in Syria and limited financial support flowing from Tehran, the axis of resistance is no longer the power it once was, leaving Iran isolated. Meanwhile, the pressure on Hezbollah to disarm is intensifying.
Hezbollah must be disarmed, and Israel would prefer that the Lebanese army do that job.
Along with that, he wants them to move 20 kilometers north of the Israeli border above the Litani River. He wants all military infrastructure of Hezbollah, any rocket launching sites, any positions to be completely destroyed, and he wants the Lebanese army to take full control of southern Lebanon.
I say to you, the people of Lebanon, you have an opportunity to save Lebanon before it falls into the abyss of a long war that will lead to destruction and suffering like we see in Gaza.
Western nations and the World Bank also tie Lebanon's multi-billion-dollar reconstruction fund to Hezbollah's disarmament. Without it, Lebanon risks economic collapse.
Hezbollah's possession of weapons has now become the main hurdle for reconstruction in Lebanon to begin.
Strong Lebanese state that can take on and disarm Hezbollah.
The new Lebanese president, Joseph Aoun, backed by the West, pledges to disarm Hezbollah and restore state control over arms.
L'armée libanaise a repris possession de la quasi-totalité du sud Liban et progresse de façon volontaire dans le désarmement du Hezbollah. Votre détermination à établir le monopole de l'État sur les armes a déjà produit des résultats.
They're getting some support from Qatar and Saudi Arabia in an attempt to kind of rebuild the Lebanese armed forces, but far too little in terms of support to actually build them up into a robust security sector. So you have now a parallel military, which is the Hezbollah military, existing in parallel to the Lebanese armed forces.
Once seen as liberators, Hezbollah's popularity has declined.
The war brought about high death tolls, destruction of areas and regions again. So Hezbollah will need to bear responsibility for that.
The thing with Hezbollah is it's not whether you allow them to do something. The question is, do you have the ability to actually constrain, restrain, or disarm Hezbollah?
فكرة نزع السلاح بدكم تشيلوها من القاموس. لن نسمح لأحد أن ينزع سلاح المقاومة. هذا السلاح دعامة للمقاومة.
Hezbollah does not want to lose its weapons because they are the tool of coercion. Without the weapons, Hezbollah would lose a lot of its political dominance in the country.
So, are we about to see the end of Hezbollah as a fighting force? Foreign allies view the shifting Middle East power dynamics as a chance to curb Iran's influence, while many Lebanese long for stability.
But what we see now is the degradation of Hezbollah, the degradation of Hamas, the degradation of the Houthis, as well as obviously the regime in Iran. All of this taken together means that these actors are more inward focused, which means they will focus more on the defense of their core interest rather than the interest of the broader umbrella, the axis of resistance.
Despite a ceasefire being agreed in November 2024, Israel has continued to strike the south of Lebanon and the city of Beirut. These strikes are happening daily in the south. The more that these strikes happen, the more that they go on, the more it gives credence to Hezbollah. It gives them ammunition. It gives them a reason for being. They can stand there and say, look at what is happening. Israel is continuing to violate this ceasefire, and without us as a deterrent, they will only continue to violate, and they will continue to try and take more land from Lebanon.
And certainly there will be a younger generation that is still very sympathetic to the organization, and over time it will begin to recover.
Known for its resilience, Hezbollah remains defiant under mounting pressure, determined to endure by adapting rather than backing down.